What's up, brothers? Hope everyone's doing well out there. I've been summoned on a Monday with a video request from a subscriber who asked me if I would share the most brutal form of cheating I've ever experienced. I had to spend a few hours thinking of this, tracking through my memory, finding which one stood out the most. And then it finally came to me. And the reason why this one stands out the most is because, well, for one, it was the most red-pilling for me, you could say. It was the one that made me cringe, because it just made me think, I wonder if my girl has ever done this to me. And, made me say, you know what, probably so. This happens so frequently, I'm sure it has. And I'm glad I didn't know about it. Now, me and a buddy of mine, at the age of 19, were renting a house. And this was like a party house. A bunch of college-age people getting together, kegs of beer, fridge full of liquor, drinking, smoking, partying. We'd have people coming in and out all the time. We'd have couples show up. They'd be happy couples. They just show up and have a good time. And so many women who were in relationships, who would show up with their boyfriends, would pull this same exact trick. That me and a couple of my friends had a game we would play. We would bet which one we thought was going to do it. Because damn near every night one of them would do it. And what they would do is, they'd show up at the party with their boyfriend. And when they left, they'd leave an item at the party. Could be their phone, could be a ID, driver's license, could be their purse, could be an item of clothing, whatever. They would leave something there as an excuse to come back without their boyfriend. And almost every time, if they forgot something and then they called and said they needed to come back, when they came back without their boyfriend, they would show up with a specific look on their face, a specific demeanor to them, like they were just there to have sex. And somebody, there was always some young, dumb, single 20-year-old dude sitting there willing to make it happen, right? But I shit you not, this would happen so frequently, and it doesn't take but maybe like 15 minutes. Like, she could call her boyfriend and say, hey, I'm stopping by to pick up my ID. She could be in the house for less than 15 minutes. And something flying around the lens. Less than 15 minutes. And that's all it would take. Some dude would pull a quickie with her or something. Right? But it would just amaze me how often this would happen. And almost every time that it happened, their boyfriend was always a very nice guy. And this is why it was so cringe. A guy that's, he's just in love. He's got the blue-pilled blinders on. And most likely, when you're in a relationship with a woman, and you're especially young and dumb and naive and in love, when she has these little like goofy things about her, like she forgets things all the time, you'll have a tendency to view that as something that's like cute. It's just like a cute, endearing thing about her. It's almost like it gives her like a light of innocence about her. Like, oh, she's forgetful. She's so goofy. But she would Oh, she loves me. She would never do anything like that. And they would do it. Now, this isn't to say that women are the only ones that cheat. I've known a lot of men who were total dirtbags. They couldn't be trusted. Not only they cheat in relationships, but they lie, cheat, and steal amongst other men as well. There's plenty of scumbags out there, and we can't forget about them. But man, I gotta tell you, when you've got a woman that you're in love with, and you just couldn't even imagine her giving it up to some other guy, but it's just that easy. She plays this little game, forgets something. And you could tell, like we would place bets on which one would be the one to do it. It was going to be the brunette, the redhead, the blonde. One of them would always do it. And it got to a point where you could almost predict the women that were going to try to pull something like this, because they would have like a certain demeanor to them that was... This is going to sound kind of weird, but it was almost like them being around men and partying, being around the testosterone, gave them the aura of like a blooming flower that just had a natural, this natural lust brewing up inside of them that they had to release, they had to take care of. It was pitiful. It's sad to think about, but we would see that happen so often. And by the way, guys that have experienced that and they've seen that sort of thing happen, and if you're a guy that was at the party, not my party, any party, because I'm sure that same shit happened everywhere. But if you're one of those guys, you're probably also one of those guys that is, as they say, RP aware in other situations like girls' night out, right? Why would a guy not want a woman to go on girls' night out? Of course, a lot of people will shame you for that. They'll say you're insecure. You must just not be good in bed. She must not be satisfied. Something must be up. It must be your fault. But anybody that's hip to modern American dating culture, they know. I mean, hell, girls' night out, she might as well say, yeah, I'm going out with my friends. Don't worry, there's not going to be any guys around. That's like saying, I'm going to the mall, but don't worry, I'm not going to spend any money. Well, then why are you going to the mall? What business do you have at the mall if you're not going to spend any money? What business do you have going out in a skimpy dress, shaking your ass and getting drunk around a bunch of dudes that are trying to get laid if you don't plan on getting laid yourself, right? So that's one of those things. But a lot of guys, they have these blue-pilled blinders on and they don't see these things. Now, sure, statistically speaking, I believe the facts state that, good 80% of women or so, I don't know the exact number, it's a high number, are loyal. When they're married or in relationships, most are loyal. Now, I guess that's debatable because people that are disloyal probably aren't going to take part in these surveys, but what I would say about that is even 20%, that's a pretty high number when you're talking about millions. We're not talking about the lottery, we're talking about 2 out of every 10. That's kind of crazy, It's one of those sad situations just to know that a quickie can happen in 10 minutes. It can be with a coworker, it can be with some random person, out with their friends. You could have even been there and boom, maybe you left for an hour. You know, maybe you guys were having drinks, having a little get-together, and you went on a beer run to go get a case of beer. You're only gone for 20 minutes. You know, shit can happen. I'm not trying to spread a negative message here. I'm just saying, you know, you might want to keep your ducks in a row and understand, you know, what could be happening. Pay close attention. Now, I understand this isn't the largest magnitude or the, we could say it won't have the biggest impact out of all the cheating I've seen. For example, a married couple that owns a home together and has kids together, cheating is a much greater magnitude in a situation like that. But to me, this was the most brutal form because it would just happen out of nowhere to a dude that was totally unsuspecting. I don't know. I guess that's all I have to say about that. There's not really too much depth that we can get into on that subject. It's just, it is what it is. Alright guys, hope this video was somewhat informative to you, and that's about it for today. Until next time, see ya.